Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something really cool. We're going beyond like the ingredients and stuff like that. We're diving into the whole psychology of consumer goods marketing. Like how do brands get us hooked on everything? From olive oil to bottled water, especially relevant for you at Gourmet Treats by Moët, by the way. Because let's face it, understanding how emotions drive those buying decisions, that's a secret weapon for any entrepreneur.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating to me is how much the marketing landscape has totally transformed. We've gone from just straight up product descriptions to this whole world where brands are crafting these entire experiences and identities around their products.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little. We've got some seriously intriguing questions to tackle today. Like, why are people willingly joining wait lists for olive oil? What on earth does water have to do with punk rock? And how are brands turning us into like their walking, talking billboards without us even knowing it?
You hit the nail on the head with those questions, and they all point to this one underlying principle, the power of emotions when it comes to those purchasing decisions. It's not enough to just tell people what a product does. You got to make them feel something.
So we're not just buying products anymore. We're buying a feeling, like a vibe, a whole identity.
Exactly.
To help us break all this down, I've got a brilliant expert here. They can shed some light on all this marketing magic.
Happy to be here.
All right, so let's rewind the clock a bit. You mentioned that marketing used to be a lot simpler. Could you paint a picture of what that looked like?
Imagine you're flipping through a catalog from the early 1900s. What do you see? Straightforward product descriptions, maybe a few text specs, and the price, no fancy lifestyle photos or emotional narratives, just the facts.
So it was all about logic and practicality back then, right? You need a new washing machine. Here are the features and the price. Take it or leave it.
Exactly. But things started to shift in the 1920s. Advertisers started to realize that tapping into emotions, that could be super persuasive. One of the pioneers of this whole shift was Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Wasn't he the mastermind behind that campaign? To get women to smoke?
That's the one. Back then, smoking was considered taboo for women. So what did Bernays do? And put together this whole event. A group of women lit up cigarettes during the Easter parade in New York City, and he framed it as a statement of freedom and empowerment.
So he turned cigarettes, of all things, into torches of freedom. That's pretty clever if you ignore the whole, smoking is bad for you thing.
Right. The ethics of that campaign are definitely debatable, but it was a watershed moment in marketing history. It demonstrated the power of connecting a product to deep-seated emotions and desires.
So Bernays basically cracked the code. He figured out that you could sell products by appealing to people's hearts, not just their minds. And fast forward to today, it seems like every brand is trying to do the same thing.
Absolutely, and we're seeing this play out in some really fascinating ways. Take Graza olive oil and Liquid Death water. They've both totally disrupted their markets by understanding the power of emotion.
Yeah, those are two great examples. Let's start with Graza. I mean, who knew that olive oil could be so trendy? They got people on wait lists. It's crazy.
Right, and it's not just about the quality of the oil, which is good, but it's the whole experience they've built around it. It starts with the design. That bright green squeeze bottle is so unexpected and playful.
It's true. It totally stands out on the shelf. It doesn't feel stuffy or pretentious like some olive oil brands can be.
Exactly, and that's intentional. They're sending a message that this olive oil is for everyday use, for drizzling on pizza, dipping bread, making simple, delicious meals.
So it's not just olive oil. It's a gateway to a more relaxed, effortless style of cooking and living. I can see why people are drawn to that. And their social media just reinforces that vibe, right?
Totally. Their Instagram is full of those mouth-watering photos and videos of people using their olive oil in simple, relatable ways. It makes you think, hey, I could do that.
It feels very aspirational, but also achievable. I think that's a big part of their appeal. They've managed to make olive oil, something that's been around for centuries, feel fresh and exciting.
Now let's compare that with Liquid Death. Even the name itself is kind of jarring, right? Liquid Death for water. And then they package it in those tall boy cans, like beer. It's brilliant.
It's such a bold move, and I think it really resonates with a certain type of consumer. It's like they're poking fun at the whole bottled water industry with its pristine mountain springs and the wellness imagery.
Exactly. They're tapping into that sense of rebellion, of not taking yourself too seriously. Their tagline, Murder Your Thirst, is the perfect example.
And their marketing campaigns are equally as edgy. They've supplied water to death metal concerts. They got those horror movie style ads. It's like they turned hydration into an act of defiance.
And it works because it taps into those deeper desires. to be different, to stand out from the crowd. Drinking Liquid Death isn't just about quenching your thirst, it's about aligning yourself with a certain attitude, a certain identity.
So they've managed to make water, of all things, feel cool and rebellious. It's amazing what you can do when you understand the psychology behind consumer behavior. But let's get into the science of this a little bit. How do our brains actually process these emotional cues when we're making a purchase?
That's where the research of Dr. Antonio Damasio comes in. He's a renowned neuroscientist, and he studied people with damage to the part of their brains that processes emotions. And you know what he found?
I'm all ears. Tell me.
These people were unable to make even simple decisions, like what to buy at the store, even when they had all the rational information right there in front of them.
Wait, so even when they knew all the pros and cons, they still couldn't decide? That's crazy.
It is, and it shows just how essential emotions are to our decision-making processes. Without that emotional input, we'd be paralyzed by choices.
So even if we think we're being logical and practical when making a purchase, there's a whole lot of subconscious emotional processing going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what brands like Graza and Liquid Death understand so well. They're not just trying to win the rational argument, they're trying to win the emotional argument.
That's so fascinating. So it's not just about the product itself, it's about the whole story, the community, the emotional connection that the brand creates.
You got it. They're tapping into those deeper desires for belonging, for individuality, for feeling like you're part of something cool and unique. And this is where social media plays a huge role.
Yeah, it feels like social media has taken emotional marketing to a whole new level.
For sure. Social media allows brands to connect with consumers on a much more personal level, to tell their stories, showcase their communities, amplify those emotional connections in a really powerful way.
Let's take Graza's Instagram again. They rarely talk about the technical details of their olive oil. It's all about beautiful, aspirational, yet achievable content. You see people drizzling their olive oil on delicious-looking food, gathering with friends and family, enjoying simple, beautiful moments.
Yeah, and it makes you think, hey, I want to be a part of that. It's not just about the olive oil, it's about the lifestyle, the community, the feeling it evokes.
And Liquid Death, as you mentioned, takes a totally different approach on social media, but it's equally effective. They're all about humor and irreverence. They lean into meme culture, they create edgy content, and really push the boundaries of traditional marketing.
It works because it's authentic to their brand. They're not trying to be something they're not. They know their audience, they know their voice, and they use social media to amplify that in a way that feels genuine and engaging.
So both brands have managed to create something even more valuable than just viral content. They've created communities.
When you buy a bottle of Graça, you're not just getting olive oil. You're joining a community of people who appreciate good food, simple living, and a touch of that effortless Mediterranean vibe.
And when you crack open a can of Liquid Death, you're becoming part of this in-joke, this rebellion against the mundane, the overly serious, the pretentious.
It's brilliant. They've both tapped into something very human, that desire to belong, to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And this sense of community is marketing gold.
Because when people feel like they're part of something, they become advocates. They're not just consumers anymore. They're ambassadors for the brand.
Think about it. When was the last time you posted a picture of yourself drinking a bottle of water on social media?
Probably never, but people proudly post pictures of their Liquid Death cans all the time.
Exactly. It's become a symbol, a badge of belonging, a way to express their identity, connect with others who share their sense of humor and their outlook on life.
And it's the same with Graça. Those green bottles are constantly popping up in Instagram stories. In food photos, it's become more than just olive oil. It's a lifestyle statement.
It's fascinating how these brands have managed to create such strong communities around seemingly simple products. But this brings us to a really important question. Where is all of this headed? What does the future of emotional marketing look like? And what does it mean for entrepreneurs like those at Gourmet Treats by Mare?
That's what I'm dying to know. What are your predictions for the future of this whole selling a feeling game?
Well, one thing's for sure. Things are only going to get more sophisticated. With AI and data analytics, brands are getting better and better at understanding our emotions, our desires, what makes us tick.
So instead of just seeing ads for products we've searched for online, we'll see ads that are specifically designed to evoke certain emotions in us.
Exactly. Imagine a world where the kind of personalization we see on platforms like Netflix, with recommendations tailored to our viewing habits, is applied to emotional marketing. Brands will be able to identify what kind of storytelling resonates with us on an individual level, and that's both exciting and potentially a little unnerving, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I mean, it's amazing how much these brands are able to understand and target our emotions But where do we draw the line?
That's the million-dollar question, and we'll dive deeper into that after a quick break. As emotional marketing gets more and more refined, I think it's super important to consider the ethics of it all. If brands can pinpoint our emotional triggers with such precision, it raises some questions about manipulation and authenticity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Where does persuasion end and manipulation begin?
Right. And with the rise of greenwashing, where brands make all these environmental claims that don't always hold up, consumers are getting skeptical and they're starting to demand more transparency and accountability from the brands they support.
So how do we navigate this increasingly complex landscape? How can we as consumers be more discerning about these emotional appeals that are being thrown at us?
I think awareness is key. Understanding how brands are using psychology and sophisticated techniques to target our emotions that can help us make more conscious decisions about what we're buying and who we're supporting.
So it's not about becoming immune to emotional marketing, because let's face it, that's impossible, but about being more aware of the forces at play.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, what feeling is this brand trying to evoke in me? And is it genuine? Are their actions aligned with their message?
This feels particularly relevant for food brands, especially for folks at Gourmet Treats by Narrow. People are becoming more and more conscious of what they're putting into their bodies, and they're looking for brands they can trust.
Totally. When it comes to something as personal as food, authenticity is paramount. Consumers want to know where their food comes from, how it's made, and what the brand stands for.
So for Gourmet Treats by Mir, this could mean highlighting the quality of their ingredients, showcasing the care and craftsmanship that goes into their treats, or even sharing the stories of the people who make them.
Exactly. It's about being transparent and inviting consumers behind the scenes.
And building genuine relationships with their customers.
For sure. And speaking of relationships, one of the most exciting trends I'm seeing in emotional marketing is the rise of what I call micro-communities.
Micro-communities, what are those?
It's this idea that instead of trying to appeal to everyone, brands are focusing on cultivating deep connections with smaller, more niche groups of consumers. They're realizing that it's more effective to have a small group of passionate advocates than a large group of indifferent customers.
So it's about quality over quantity. It's like that saying, a mile wide and an inch deep.
Exactly. And these micro communities are often built around shared values, passions, or interests. It could be a community of gamers, foodies, travel enthusiasts, you name it.
So for Gourmet Treats by Mar, this could mean thinking about what kind of micro community they want to cultivate around their brand. Maybe it's people who are passionate about using locally sourced ingredients, or people who are dedicated to supporting small businesses, or maybe it's just people who really, really love gourmet treats.
Right. It's about finding those shared passions and values and building a community around them. And social media is the perfect platform for this.
We're already seeing this happening with brands using Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms to create these micro communities. They're hosting live events, creating challenges, fostering conversations among their followers. It's all about creating that sense of belonging and shared purpose.
And that's what makes these micro communities so powerful. People feel connected, they feel heard, and they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And that can translate into fierce loyalty and advocacy for the brand.
It's like turning customers into fans and then turning those fans into a street team that spreaded the word organically. I love that.
And here's another fascinating trend, that line between entertainment and marketing. It's blurring. Brands are realizing they need to be more than just advertisers. They need to be content creators, storytellers, even entertainers in their own right.
So instead of just interrupting our favorite shows with ads, brands are becoming part of the entertainment itself.
You got it. We're seeing brands create their own shows, web series, podcasts, even video games. They're partnering with influencers and celebrities to create content that their target audience actually wants to consume.
So it's all about creating an experience, something that people will actually enjoy engaging with, not just something they'll skip over or scroll past.
Right, and this is where creativity and authenticity are key. Brands need to understand their audience, what they're interested in, what kind of stories resonate with them.
This feels like an exciting opportunity of Gourmet Treats by Mattel. They could create a series of short videos about the stories behind their treats, the ingredients they use, the people who make them. They could even host virtual baking classes or partner with food bloggers to create unique recipes featuring their products.
Right, it's all about thinking outside the box and finding creative ways to engage their audience. And this leads to another trend I'm seeing, the rise of what I call authentic tech.
Authentic tech. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
As consumers become more sophisticated and discerning about emotional marketing, they're demanding more transparency from brands, especially when it comes to things like sustainability and ethical sourcing. They're not just taking brands at their word anymore. They want proof.
I could definitely relate to that. It feels like there's so much greenwashing out there, so many brands jumping on the eco-conscious bandwagon without actually backing it up.
Right, and this is where authentic tech comes in. We're seeing all these new tools and platforms emerging that allow consumers to verify brand claims and track corporate behavior.
So we're talking about things like apps that can scan product labels to verify ingredients, or websites that track a company's environmental footprint.
Exactly. These tools give consumers the power to hold brands accountable and to make more important decisions about where they spend their money.
This feels like a game changer. It could really level the playing field and give consumers more power in the marketplace.
I think so too. And it's going to force brands to be more honest and transparent in their marketing. They'll know that consumers have the tools to check their claims, and they'll need to be able to back up their emotional appeals with real action.
It's a win-win for both consumers and brands that are genuinely committed to doing the right thing. And it all circles back to that theme of authenticity, which feels like the golden thread running through this whole conversation.
Absolutely. In a world where consumers are bombarded with marketing messages from every direction, authenticity is the key to cutting through the noise and building lasting connections.
So for those at Gourmet Treats by Ma, it means being honest about their story, their ingredients, their process. It means building genuine relationships with their customers and their community. And it means being open to feedback and willing to adapt as needed.
Right. It's about building a brand that people can trust and believe in, a brand that stands for something real and meaningful.
And that's what ultimately creates those deep emotional connections that drive loyalty and advocacy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation, but before we wrap things up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on some of the more specific tactics that brands are using to create those emotional connections. What are some of the things you're seeing out there?
One technique that's really effective is the use of nostalgia. Brands are tapping into our fond memories of childhood, of simpler times, to create a sense of comfort and familiarity.
Oh yeah, I see that all the time. Like brands bringing back retro packaging or using vintage-inspired designs. It's like a shortcut to those warm, fuzzy feelings.
Exactly, and it works. Because nostalgia can be a really powerful emotion. It makes us feel connected to our past, to our sense of self, and it can even evoke feelings of happiness and security.
That's so interesting. Are there any other tactics you've noticed that are particularly effective?
Another one is the use of humor. Brands are using humor to break down barriers, to make themselves more relatable, and to create a sense of shared fun with their audience.
I've definitely seen that, especially on social media. It feels like brands are getting a lot more playful and irreverent.
And for good reason, humor can be incredibly disarming. It can help brands come across as more human, less corporate, more approachable, and when people are laughing, they're more likely to let their guard down and connect with the brand on a deeper level.
It's like if you could make someone laugh, you've already won half the battle.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and this is especially relevant for Gourmet Treats by Mari. Imagine incorporating humor into their social media posts, their packaging, even their product knives. It could be a really fun way to connect with their audience and create a more lighthearted and joyful brand experience.
I love that. It's like injecting a little bit of playfulness into the world of gourmet treats. But on a more serious note, what about brands that are trying to tap into more complex emotions, like empathy or social responsibility? How are they doing that effectively?
That's a great question. We're seeing more and more brands using their platforms to advocate for social causes they believe in. They're partnering with charities, highlighting important issues, and even using their products to make a difference.
Like Tom's Shoes with their one-for-one model, where they donate a pair of shoes for every pair purchased.
Exactly. That's a great example of a brand using its business to make a positive impact on the world. And consumers are responding to this. They're increasingly looking for brands that share their values and are actively working to make the world a better place.
So it's not just about selling a product anymore. It's about making a statement, taking a stand, being a part of something bigger.
Absolutely. And this is a huge opportunity for Gourmet Treats by Mao. What causes do they care about? How can they use their business to give back to their community or to support a cause that's important to them?
That's such a great point. It could be anything from sourcing their ingredients locally to partnering with a charity that fights hunger. The possibilities are endless.
Right? It's about finding those authentic connections between their brand and the causes they care about. And when they do that, they're not just selling treats, they're selling a sense of purpose and a chance to make a difference.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into the world of emotional marketing. It feels like we've barely scratched the surface, though.
There's always more to explore, but we'll have to save that for another time.
All right, well, before we let you go, what are some final thoughts or takeaways you'd like to leave our listeners at Gourmet Treats by Mako with?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Emotional marketing is not about manipulation. It's about understanding your audience, connecting with them on a human level, and building genuine relationships.
It's about creating experiences that resonate, that spark joy, that inspire action, and that ultimately make people feel something real.
Well said. And I think for entrepreneurs like those at Gourmet Treats by Mac, it's important to remember that you don't need a massive budget to create powerful emotional connections.
So it's not about fancy ad campaigns or celebrity endorsements. It's about finding those authentic touch points and building a brand that people truly care about.
Exactly. And that all starts with understanding the psychology behind consumer behavior, which I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking today.
Absolutely. This has been an incredible conversation.
It's been my pleasure. Always a joy to explore these topics with you.
And for all of you listening at Gourmet Treats by Mari, I hope you're walking away from this deep dive feeling inspired and empowered to build a brand that truly connects with people.
And remember, the most successful brands are the ones that make people feel something.
So go out there and create something amazing, and we'll catch you next time on the deep dive. Wow, that was amazing. I feel like we all just got like an honorary degree in marketing psychology.
It's so fascinating, right? And the coolest part, you don't need a PhD to actually put these ideas into practice.
That's so true. And for everyone at Gourmet Treats by Mari, this is where things get really exciting. You've given them so much to think about, so many possibilities.
Yeah, and I think for them and any entrepreneur out there who wants to use the power of emotional marketing, they need to really focus on those core principles, the ones we talked about. Authenticity, community, and innovation.
Okay, let's break those down one last time, just so everyone's got it.
So, authenticity, it all starts with being real, True to yourselves, your story, your values. What makes Gourmet Treats by Mouse special? What makes them different from every other company out there making treats?
Yeah, it's about finding their unique voice, their own flavor, and letting that come through in everything they do. Their website, social media, even the packaging. It all has to be real, and it all has to match.
Exactly. And then there's community. It's about building something bigger than just selling and buying. It's about making a space where people can connect, share their love for these amazing treats, and feel like they're part of something cool.
It's like turning your customers into your biggest fans, and then those fans, they become your best advertisers, spreading the word because they love what you do. It's like building a whole tribe of treat lovers.
Loves that. And it's innovation. It doesn't always mean creating something totally new. Sometimes it's about finding a fresh way to show off what you've already got, telling your story in a new way, or getting your audience excited.
Maybe that means doing a subscription box, something special, or partnering with local businesses to offer exclusive treats, or even those virtual baking classes we were talking about earlier.
See, so many possibilities. And the best part, it doesn't have to be super complicated or expensive. Just be creative. Find ways to make your brand stand out.
So for everyone at Gourmet Treats by Mart, I hope you're feeling inspired, like you could do anything. You got the knowledge, the tools, and the passion to build a brand that people really connect with emotionally, a brand people will love, crave, and tell all their friends about.
Don't forget, emotional marketing isn't about tricking people. It's about building real connections, earning trust, and giving people something valuable, something that goes beyond just the product itself.
It's about those real feelings, joy, excitement, comfort, even that feeling of belonging. When you can do that, you've created something truly special.
Totally agree.
A huge thank you to our expert for all these incredible insights. This deep dive into the art of selling a feeling has been amazing.
It's been a blast. I always love chatting about this stuff with you.
And to everyone listening, thanks for being here with us. We hope you learned something you can use to make your own businesses and brands even better.
Remember, the future of marketing is all about those real human connections. Go out there and make something incredible.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon to explore another topic that's changing the world. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.